I was working at an Apple store near the big city. It was like something straight out of a horror movie, and it still gives me shivers just thinking about it. So, you know how it is in the city, right? You see all kinds of people, and sometimes you come across some really strange ones. Well, this one time while I was at work, this homeless dude came into the store, and right from the get-go, I could tell there was something off about him. He had this wild look in his eyes, and he was acting all weird, like opening and closing his mouth and stuff. I tried not to judge or anything because, everyone's got their own story, but he was giving me the creeps for sure. He came up to me and started talking all this gibberish about government organizations and microchips in people's brains. It was like he was living in a whole different world or something. I didn't know what to make of it, but I just smiled and tried to be polite, customer service and all. Fast forward to closing time. It was getting late and we were about to lock up the store. Me and my manager, we were doing our thing, turning off the lights, making sure everything's in place. But then we started smelling this really foul odor, like something rotten or dead. It was nasty and we couldn't figure out where it was coming from. At first, we thought maybe it was just the trash or something, but the smell was getting stronger and it was making us both gag. We started looking around and that's when we saw him. The homeless dude we saw earlier, but this time he was naked. I kid you not, guys, he was completely butt naked. And he was just crawling around on the floor, talking to himself and stuff. It was like something out of a nightmare. He kept saying stuff about the Apple store being a front for some government operation, and that we were all going to be implanted with microchips or something. I don't know, man, it was just crazy. We called the cops right away, because there was no way we were going to deal with this on our own. When they got there, they found the guy still rambling on about the microchips and all that. But here's the really scary part. They also found drugs in his system. Yeah, turns out the dude was high as a kite on who knows what. That probably explained why he was acting all delusional and doing all that weird stuff. But still, it was one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. The cops took him away, and we were just left there trying to process what had just happened. I mean, you hear about weird stuff happening in big cities, but you never think it's going to happen to you, Ever since that night, I've been extra cautious when closing up the store. You never know who or what you might come across. And it's not just the big cities, man. Weird things can happen anywhere, anytime. Alright, so this all started when my phone went all wonky on me. It was acting crazy and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. So I thought, hey, let's take it to the Apple store and let the pros handle it. Sounded like a good plan, right? When I got to the store, I was greeted by this employee, let's call him Mark. Seemed like a regular dude at first, wearing the Apple store shirt and all that. He had that smiley face, the one they all do when you walk in. I handed my phone to him, explained the problem, and he said he'd take care of it. No big deal, right? Well, that's where things started to get weird. A couple of days later, I got a call from the store, and they told me my phone was fixed and ready to be picked up. I was relieved because I couldn't go a day without my phone. I mean, who can these days, right? But when I went to get my phone, I had this weird feeling like I was being watched. Maybe I was just being paranoid or something, but it felt strange. Anyway, Mark handed my phone back to me, said it was all good now, and I went on my way. That's when the nightmare began. It was the next day, and I was just chilling at home when I got this strange text message. It was from an unknown number, and the message said something like, "Hey, remember me? I know all about you." I was like, what the heck? Who is this creep? But then the text got even creepier. The person texting me knew stuff that only someone who had access to my phone could know. Like personal stuff, Stuff I wouldn't tell just anyone. I started freaking out, wondering how this person got my number and why they were doing this to me. I tried to ignore it, but then the calls started. Late at night, when I was home alone, my phone would ring, and when I picked up, there'd be this eerie silence on the other end. It was like someone was watching me, waiting for me to say something. Oh, just thinking about it makes my skin crawl. I tried changing my number and blocking the weird numbers, but the calls and messages kept coming. Whoever it was, they were relentless. I was getting paranoid, scared to even use my phone, and it was affecting my daily life. And then, one night, things took a terrifying turn for the worse. I was home, just chilling on the couch, when I heard a knock on the door. It was pretty late and I wasn't expecting anyone, so naturally I got all nervous. Peeking through the peephole, I saw someone standing there and my heart sank when I realized it was Mark from the Apple store. What was he doing at my house? How did he even find where I lived? I never told him anything personal. I mean, yeah, he had my phone for a few days, but that doesn't give him the right to stalk me like this. I didn't open the door, obviously, but he kept knocking and calling my name. "Open up, I just want to talk," he said, but I knew better than to trust him. I called the police and told them what was going on. They came over real quick and took Mark away, but the damage was already done. It's been a while since that incident, but I'm still scared to visit an Apple store or any tech repair shop, to be honest. The whole experience left me paranoid and anxious, wondering if someone else out there could invade my privacy like that. So picture this, I'm walking out of the Apple store all happy and excited with my shiny new iPhone. It was like holding a piece of the future in my hands, you know? But then, I thought, why not go all out and get some more Apple goodies? I mean, who could resist those sleek AirPods and a fancy case to protect my new baby? I was strolling home with my Apple haul, and that's when things started to feel a little off. I noticed these two shadowy figures following me, keeping a distance like they were trying to be sneaky. Now at first I thought it might be my imagination, but the feeling of being watched just wouldn't go away. As I quickened my pace, the figures kept tailing me and the fear started creeping in. It was getting dark, and I found myself on this isolated street with barely anyone around. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, and my gut was telling me something was seriously wrong. As I turned into this narrow alley, the figures closed in, and I could see their faces now. Let me tell you folks, those faces were straight out of a horror flick. It was like they were wearing these sinister masks, and their eyes were like black holes, sucking the life out of me. I knew I was in trouble, and there was no way out. The alley felt like a trap, and I was the prey. And then, it happened. They lunged at me, grabbing for my Apple products like they had been waiting for this moment all along. It was like they knew exactly what I had. Fear took over me and I fought back with everything I had. But they were tough and relentless. It was a horrifying struggle and my mind was racing a mile a minute. I knew I couldn't take them both on and I was panicking, trying to think of a way out. In that heart-stopping moment, I had to make a gut-wrenching decision. I let go of my precious Apple stuff, yelling at them to take it and leave me alone. It felt like my heart shattered into a million pieces as they snatched my things and disappeared into the darkness. I stood there trembling and in shock, feeling violated and terrified. My new iPhone and all those goodies, gone, just like that. But deep down, I knew I had made the right choice. My safety was more important than any material possessions. I ran back home as fast as my legs could carry me. My mind was racing and every sound in the night felt like a threat. I locked all the doors and windows, feeling like I was living in a nightmare. I called the police to report what had happened, hoping they could catch those monsters who had ruined my night and my sense of security. But sadly, they were like ghosts, vanishing without a trace. That night was one of the scariest nights of my life. I couldn't sleep, couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. It was like those figures were haunting me even in my own home.